Thank you so much for having me. My name is Matthias Madou. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Secure Code Warrior. And I would like to talk about coding with AI and will developers get extinct? So where are we today with AI? Well, first of all, developers, they started screwing around with ChatGPT a while ago in 2021. However, quite quickly, there were plenty of co-pilots coming out where they could actually ask questions to the co-pilot and get an answer. These days, I think something dramatically has changed. In the last 3 months, with the upcoming of Cursor, it's a little bit older than that, I know, but the last 3 months were really instrumental for developers. There's a lot more coding out there. There's a lot more solutions out there where they can ask questions and get actually really good answers. So developers can go faster. They can go faster by using AI. However, what are the dangers? And what are the options for software developers? And I think there are 2 options for software developers. Well, we can stay the same and we can use those AI solutions and know very little about security, but we will crank out code faster. However, the danger is you stay an average developer, but you're going to introduce 10 times more problems into the code because you're going to go 10, 15 times faster, but all you're going to do is trust the AI solution and copy-paste what the AI solution is saying into your code. Or you can become a security skill developer, and essentially you can learn about how to write secure code, and you will know how to use those AI solutions. So my philosophy is always AI in the hands of skilled developers is actually a really good thing. AI in the hands of unskilled developers is flat out dangerous. So how can we go into that direction? You know, how can we go into the direction of being security skilled, help our organization, and make sure that we essentially produce reliable software for our end customer? So where are we today? If we look a little bit at statistics, it doesn't have really a nice picture, right? If we look at Bachbench and some data points, 62% of the code that was generated, even by the best models, still contains security vulnerabilities. That doesn't mean it's not correct code. You know, in the second bullet point, quite often it's functionally correct. The code works. The code does what it's supposed to do, but it has inherent security problems. And LLMs, you know, they cannot create a deployable ready code yet. However, I need to make a very important side note. We expect them to be much better in the near future. Every month that goes by is really mind-boggling of what new stuff comes out and how those models are improved. So we need to build for that. We need to build for newer models, better models. We need to build for the future. So we've done our own research. And what does our own research tell us? It's actually pretty interesting. So on the left-hand side, you have the LLM models, and bottom to top is roughly also when they came out, roughly. At the bottom part, you see the vulnerabilities. All the way at the right, you see SQL injection. I know it's way too small, but all the way on the right, you see SQL injection. All the way to the left is more architectural problems. So blue means it's not doing well in that category with that particular LLM. Red means it's actually doing a pretty good job. So as you can see at the bottom, like the initial models for pretty much all the categories of vulnerabilities weren't doing all too well. At the top, you can see, well, there's a lot more red. So those models are improving. If you look more bottom left versus top right, well, then you can see that at the top right, at the vulnerabilities at the coding level, well, the models seem to do really well. If all the way to the right is SQL injection, you see actually dark red. So we may have a shot to finally eradicating a category of problems. So there is actually a shot that with LLMs we can eradicate, for example, SQL injection, which means that in the future, hopefully we do not have to train and educate our developers on how to eradicate SQL injection. But there's going to be new problems, because if you look at the left-hand side, there's things that LLMs can't do quite right, that they do not get a really good handle on. Those problems are quite often more architectural problems. You know, direct object reference, not having authentication, for example, that type of problems. So maybe a final thing that is really hard to see from this particular distance, but we've also put humans in there. So a couple of those lines are humans, like how do humans behave? And if you look into more details, another really interesting fact that we figured out is that humans are more consistent. So AI models are very flaky in giving consistently the same and good output. With humans, it's very different. A human that is learning quite often gives you consistent, always the right answer or the wrong answer. With LLM models, it differs a lot. So, as I was mentioning, the world is moving very, very fast, and especially for software developers. It all started with GitHub Copilot a while back, and if you look through the history, a lot more things have come out. Quarter by quarter, new stuff comes out. To me personally, I think the launching of Cursor was very instrumental for me. The launching of Cursor was very instrumental to me because it gave you really a very interactive IDE, which was built from the start with AI in mind for developers to use. A second one I would like to point out on this screen is Lovable. Lovable is a platform where you can essentially, as a non-coder, go to and essentially create an entire application without knowing a single line of code. Very interesting, very important. However, if you do not know your stuff, is that secure? Can you trust those systems? You can trust them to a particular, to a certain level, but not entirely. So what else can we learn from the data? Now this becomes super small, but over here on in black, you can actually see the black dots, or it's going up. You can see the percentage of people, people in a particular area, in a working area, that are using, the percentage of number of employees in the US. So for example, if you look at this particular line over here, that is people in computer engineering, computer science, essentially software developers. So this particular line, a good 3.5% in the US of people are in creating software. The orange line over there is telling us how often those people are using AI percentage-wise. So if you look throughout all the people that have a profession in the US, what percentage across the AI questions that are asked are really from software developers? So as you can see, there's only 3.5% of people doing software development. However, they take up almost, is it 40%? 40% of the requests that are coming to an AI solution are from software developers. So they are heavily using AI solutions. You may say, of course, that's normal. Well, I don't know. Other professions should use AI as well. There's great benefits for other professions as well. So what does that mean? Well, it means that your software developers will almost demand that they will use an AI solution. Even if you, as a company, will block the usage of AI, they will demand and say, you know what, we can be more productive, we know what we're doing, we need an AI solution. From a security perspective, you're almost powerless, because even if you block AI solutions, what they're going to do is they're going to take their phone, they're going to go to ChatGPT, ask questions on ChatGPT, and that's shadow AI, right? So you will not know that they're using AI, but they will use AI. So how do you prepare for that? That's a really relevant question. If we dive a little bit deeper, then we can ask the question, but really dive deep and say, hey, what are the professions? What are really the professions that are using AI solutions? Well, over there we see that a lot of those titles, what they're asking for is software development, programming, applications, and so on and so forth. So what do they do with it for real? So if we dive one level deeper, if we go to the software developer and we're trying to figure out, hey, what type of questions are you asking? Why are you using an AI solution? Then we see that writing code really tops the chart. 82% of the people are trying to write code using an AI solution. There's actually really good other usages. It's not always writing code. It's not always asking a question and having a code snippet back. Quite often testing code, documenting code, it's really good at doing that as well. And in fact, some of those things, the lesser used use cases of software developers are essentially, well, AI solutions are even better at that. So AI solutions, they are really good in code explanation. So if you have a piece of code and you do not understand the piece of code, go ask an AI solution to explain the piece of code. And it does a really good job. Research and learning. You can bounce off ideas with an AI solution. It's a really good use case where AI solutions are really good at. We all know boilerplate, templates. It has a lot of prototyping capabilities. Test generation, well-defined refactoring, those are the type of things that AI solutions are really good at. However, there are things that AI solutions are not particularly good at. And of course, at the end, there's also security, but I would like to go through a couple as well. Spaghetti code. Quite often, we think AI is going to fix all our problems, right? We've written a pretty bad piece of code, and now we're going to have AI fix it all up. It doesn't happen. So there's also not so great areas of using AI solutions. Vibe coding, the latest thing, and maybe you've heard about this particular example. There was this particular person and said, hey, you know what? Hey, this is super cool. I've started my SaaS business and I'm not the technical person. I'm not a techie. I do not know about writing code. I just use these things out there, these AI solutions out there, and I've made a SaaS solution. I'm in business. I'm making money. Life is great. Unfortunately, a little bit later, he had to come back to Twitter and say, hey, I'm sorry, my business is down, there's something going on. I'm not sure exactly what, but it looks like I'm under attack. Ultimately, he even had to shut down his app and his business because he had security problems. Interestingly enough, that code was made available afterwards. So that code was made available, and you can go through that code and you can figure out all the security problems that are wrong with that piece of code. It's not one thing, it's not two things, but as you can see, it's a long list of problems that were introduced when you're doing coding. Again, my philosophy is the AI solutions will do better. Don't get me wrong. Next time, it's maybe only going to be 5, but still, everybody is going to use it. Still, as a software developer, you have to know what you're doing. You have to figure out what is possible, what's not possible, what's good code, what's bad code. So hype versus reality. What is hype? What is reality? There's a couple of things that you need to take into consideration if you're using AI, and they are mainly focused on security risks and the legal risks. I'm actually going to skip that one because I really would like to dive into the last 2 slides over here. So how do you teach developers how to use those AI solutions? My philosophy is try to be as close as possible to what a developer is doing on a day-to-day basis. Take Cursor.ai. What is a developer doing? A developer is asking Cursor a question, and you do not get a text answer. You do not get an English answer or a German answer. What you get is a diff between the code that is there and the code that the AI solution is proposing. Now the question is, will you accept that challenge? Will you accept that diff? Will you accept that piece of code? Do you think that piece of code is secure? Do you think that piece of code is good code? That is the question, right? So if you learn and if you want to understand those things as a software developer, I feel that should be the model as well. You should learn by having an exact example of what you're going to do in real life. And essentially, that's what we do. So what are essential skills for a software developer? I think essential skills for a software developer is knowing how you can use AI in a good way, knowing what the dangers are of AI, what security pitfalls are, what IP infringement, and all those things are mission critical to use AI solutions. To finish it off, because I only have 30 seconds left, I would like to say our philosophy with Secure Code Warrior is really making sure that you as a software developer can use AI solutions, and we also want to make sure that the CISO has visibility in how your developers are using AI solutions. And if you want to know more, we can always do more, because we have a fireside chat coming up at the end of June around using AI in the real world. Thank you very much.